Have you ever had a book series or a series of movies that you've always wanted to get into? Something that you always wanted to experience, but for whatever reason never got around to. But any day now you're gonna get your teeth into it. I have. It's a series of video games, and it's called Kingdom Hearts.
Developed by Square Enix, previously Squaresoft's prodigal son, Tetsuya Nomura, and his team of the most cracked JRPG craftsmen in the land of the rising sun.
It's a video game series featuring this guy, with the craziest Yu-Gi-Oh haircut since Yu-Gi-Oh! A bunch of Disney characters, like pretty much all of them, and this thing. It's called a Keyblade, and to 10-year-old me, this was the coolest thing I had ever seen. And to 28-year-old me, I mean, yeah, it pretty much still is.
But for whatever reason, I never really got into it. I borrowed the first game from a friend and got maybe 30-40 minutes in before I went back to Ratchet & Clank. It wasn't for me, but for some reason, it stuck with me. The Keyblade. It called for me to come back. So that brings us up to speed. It's 2022, the games are remastered, repackaged, and released on PC, and I just happened to find a few months of spare time.
A scattered dream that's like a far-off memory. A far-off memory that's like a scattered dream.
How does that even begin to mean?
But before we get going, there is one thing you need to know about Kingdom Hearts and why I need to be trepidatious when undertaking this journey. You see, I don't like JRPGs. I can probably count on Donald's hand how many I've actually enjoyed. They're not bad, they're just not for me.
I like simulators and shooters. I'm about as basic as a white man comes. If a game features a gun or a light beer, I can't be held responsible if I end up missing family dinners for a good 6 months. So the fact that the idea of going through the entirety of Kingdom Hearts has not been able to shake itself from my mind for nigh on 20 years has to mean something, right?
But therein lies the problem. Kingdom Hearts is huge, massive, with a devout following only rivaled by creators themselves. If I go into Kingdom Hearts and end up not liking it, I'm gonna be eaten alive. Which, like, I don't have a precaution against that. I just want you to know the stakes here, right?
The first game is the only one that I've actually played, albeit briefly, and the only thing I seem to remember was that the intro music felt like a really weird choice. Yeah. Tell me you're from the early 2000s without telling me you're from the early 2000s. Kingdom Hearts 1 is a story about a boy and his friends, a story about a world in peril, and a story about Disney. Except it isn't.
Looking at the marketing material, you'd assume this is Epic Mickey 2, Donald Duck's Quack Attack, the sequel. Because at least in the US and Western Europe, that is how it was sold. It was a Disney game.
So when you get into it and are greeted by this,
one who knows nothing can understand nothing.
You start thinking about what you just got yourself into. I know I did, and I didn't stop for the next 40 hours.
The darkness in people's hearts. That's what attracts
Isn't
them.
this like a Donald
And there is
Duck
darkness within every heart.
Hey, have you heard of someone named Ansem?
No? Who?
This is Sora. He's Kingdom Hearts' version of Luke Skywalker, a protagonist who, just like the player, is thrust into this expansive world of unknowns, completely clueless. But unlike Luke, who observes his surroundings, draws conclusions, and learns about the state of the world, Sora is just...
Power? What's that? Whoa! What's that?
Which is like complete... You know what? I take it back. That is exactly how I looked going through the story.
Sora, Riku, and Kairi all grew up on the not at all foreshadowingly named Destiny Islands, desperately wanting to leave, to explore the world outside. That all comes a little too quickly, however, as they're all whisked away into the unknown while their islands fade into dark. This is where the game picks up speed. Donald and Goofy join in to find their lost king, Michael Mouse, leading to a romp through Disney World after Disney World, all while feeding you breadcrumbs about the greater evil threatening all of creation. And if you're feeling like I'm glossing over the story a little too quickly here, I've got 14 games to cover or something, and I have a feeling we're gonna need to come back to it later anyway. The world is under threat by the Heartless, which are... It's complicated. What follows is a surprisingly deep JRPG given the marketing. A game with clear direction and an absolute masterclass in weaving together differing design languages. To claim it's a masterpiece is probably speaking too lowly of it. But here are the words that I've been dreading. I didn't enjoy it. It's a brilliant video game, perhaps a little of a product of its age, but its mechanics are not only well crafted, but proven genre defining. The issue isn't Nomura's game, it's fantastic. The issue is this guy.
So you have come this far, and still you understand nothing.
Rude, but fair.
So if I've now gotten the answer to the nagging question of would I enjoy Kingdom Hearts, why would I continue? I mean, you've seen the length of the video and there is a while to go. If I know I'm gonna hate it, why keep going?
Because of this. These are my notes taken while playing through Kingdom Hearts 1. These are my desperate attempts to try and make sense of the story. The answer to that ever elusive why is in here somewhere. And it is wholly intriguing.
Right, chain of memories.
To reunite with those you hold dear.
What's this? A card?
Hold the card to open the door, and beyond it a new world.
It's a card game.
No. Go back. Not yet. Go back. I want to discuss this thing that Kingdom Hearts does. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories is a card game, a completely unique gameplay system never again seen in Kingdom Hearts, after which Sora loses memories, effectively forgetting the whole game ever happened. So you might be assuming this is one that you can skip and move directly on to the blockbusting sequel in Kingdom Hearts 2, right? Well, have I got news for you.
Chain of Memories isn't just a poor idea to skip, it is essential to play and comprehend if you're ever gonna try and understand Kingdom Hearts 2. And this is what Kingdom Hearts does. For whatever reason, Nomura just can't let a spin-off be a spin-off. Every single installment in this series apparently needs to have crucial mainline story plot points.
It doesn't matter if it's released on the PS4, Nintendo DSi, or as a Samsung Smart Fridge exclusive. It's gonna matter. Like, a lot.
Alright, now I'm done. Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 is everything the first game was, jacked up to 11. You don't need to travel far into the bowels of gaming commentary YouTube to find that people love this game. And I get it too. It's still not a game for me. I think we've established that that ship has probably already sailed for me, but I can recognize that this is a remarkably well-developed video game. Mechanics, art style, the RPG elements, everything is refined from the first game, distilled into what makes a great JRPG.
But that's not why we're here, is it?
Now, we've already established that in order to understand Kingdom Hearts 2 story fully, you need to play through Chain of Memories, right? Let's try and recontextualize that, because I don't think you understand just how insane that is. Kingdom Hearts 1 was massive, just about as big as a game featuring literal Disney characters could be, and then some. It's one of the top 10 best-selling PS2 games of all time. It was immense. Safe to say, the hype for its sequel, Kingdom Hearts 2, 3 years later, was reaching Elden Ring levels. Or is it the other way around? When fans of the original fired up their brand new blockbuster Disney video game and found themselves lost and confused in an already convoluted story, they looked at Square Enix. Square Enix, who kinda just stood there and pointed to the Game Boy Advance. Not the, at the time, brand new Nintendo DS, mind you, but its predecessor. The Game Boy Advance. What? It'd be a shame if you didn't play this one.
Naminé. Who are you?
Great question.
When it's all said and done, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2005, and Kingdom Hearts 3 came out in 2019, pretty recently, a whole 14 years later. So that means we have a bit of a break now, right? Square Enix put the series on the back burner and kept major story developments to a minimum, right? Right?
How am I supposed to parse this? With 3-5 days... Who names their game? 358 Days Over 2 is a Nintendo DS game that follows Sora to... It doesn't follow Sora. He's not Sora, he's just... Well, I mean, he is, he's just... We'll get to it later. 358 Days Over 2 follows Roxas, who's... Well, he's this guy. You played as him for a little bit in Kingdom Hearts 2. And he's part of the organization. The organization... I haven't even talked about the organization yet. All you need to know is that in 358 Days Over 2 you follow Roxas and Xion and Axel, who you've already met in Chain of Memories, but as Sora, and he's not here. Well, he's just... Look, it's a prequel, kinda, to Kingdom Hearts 2, but not in the same way that Kingdom Hearts 1 is a prequel to Kingdom Hearts 2, because Kingdom Hearts 1 is still the game that's set earliest in the timeline. Well, this game is set 10 years before Kingdom Hearts 1.
Who's this guy? Isn't this like...
Break, Aqua.
Are we just gonna...
Ven, you
Ven?
sleepyhead.
I'm pretty sure that's Rock. Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep is... it's just another great title. I've read this title so many times that it looks normal to me. But anytime I mention it to any of my friends, they pause me to actively ask me what the hell I'm playing.
What the fuck is Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep? That shit don't even make sense. Okay, I'm done with my red stick.
Being set 10 years prior to Kingdom Hearts 1, this is effectively where the whole series starts.
For now,
The game follows 3 new to the series Keyblade wielders, Aqua, Terra, and Ventus, making it possibly the easiest one to follow as it works kind of like a clean slate before Sora comes into the picture. Look, I said possibly the easiest one to follow. Sora is still here, he's in... We'll get to it later. For a series where both its mainline entries were PS2 exclusive, this is where we get back to that thing that Kingdom Hearts does. Birth by Sleep first released as an exclusive for the PSP, which in theory is fine, right? Give one exclusive to the DS crowd and one to the PSP one. Both you and your little sister are happy. Except this isn't like Pokemon, where the only difference between red and blue is a color palette swap. These are completely separate games. Separate games that you need to play in order to have as much as a basic understanding of what's happening in the series.
I know I talk a big talk about all these games, but I can honestly say Birth by Sleep was the first one I actually enjoyed. Something about the setup where you effectively play through the game 3 times was kind of therapeutical to me. I liked it. Don't make me say that ever again.
go ahead. Just go ahead. I'll give you as many guesses as you want as to what platform the original Kingdom Hearts Coded came out for.
The re-release came out on the Nintendo DS, but if you wanted to play this integral part of the Kingdom Hearts story on release, oh, no worries. You just need to get yourself one of the billions of NTT Docomo P-01A mobile phones that are out there in the wild. I'd never heard of it before, and I'm still not quite sure it's even a real device. I say integral part of the story, but if there is one game that you can skip, it's not this one, but it is the closest we've gotten so far. Kingdom Hearts Coded takes place in the datascape, or as we normal humans call it, the computer world.
Okay, great. I can't computer, so...
The big takeaways from this game is that it's revealed that the characters we've been playing throughout our journey so far, Sora, Riku, Kairi, Roxas, Xion, Ventus, Aqua, whatever, are all connected, and that for some reason now is the best time for Sora and Riku to prove that they're ready to become Keyblade Masters. Cue...
Dream Drop Distance. Compared to the other subtitles we've had, it doesn't even sound that insane anymore. But I have a theory about this game. The only reason they named it Dream Drop Distance, whatever that means, was so that the acronym could be 3D, which is cute considering it originally released on a Nintendo 3DS. Which is yet another system I have to buy.
As teased in the previous game, Sora and Riku set off to be granted the titles of true Keyblade Masters, and to achieve this they need to free worlds from their state of sleep. DDD has one of my favorite gameplay features so far in it. It does this thing where you're playing as one character, having a good time, and then the game just stands up, kicks you in the back, throws your share out the room, and tells you no. Now you're playing as the other guy for a bit. It's a really cool mechanic.
You mean to tell me the Kingdom Hearts key, you see what they did there? It's just a mobile game? I can use my phone, I can use my iPad. I don't have to buy a full new console for it. I can just sit back, relax, crack a couple of beers, and blow all of my retirement savings without a care in the world?
And because you're a normal human with a functional brain, you assume that you can just skip this mobile gacha game. That's clearly just a cash grab for Square, and you're not gonna miss anything important in the story, right? Everything is already in place for the biggest release in nigh on 15 years. Kingdom Hearts 3.
Did you forget what game series you were playing? You're so cute.
Look, I know that I've said that you can't really skip any of the Kingdom Hearts games. There's just too much story in each one of them. But in the grand scheme of things, if we compare just the amount of story being conveyed, you'd gain a greater understanding of the universe if you just played Kingdom Hearts Key and skipped the rest of them, as opposed to the opposite.
The amount of story content that they packed in here is insane. It takes place years and years prior to the already established lore, creating a new starting point for the entire universe. And it does it kinda great.
But then we're back to that thing that Kingdom Hearts does. Because not only do you need to play through a mobile game to receive pretty much all of the backstory to a world you've already spent thousands of hours in, you need to play through a mobile game that looks like this to even begin to comprehend one of the biggest video game releases to come out for over a decade.
Alright, I lied. We're not quite at Kingdom Hearts 3 yet. First, we gotta get through Kingdom Hearts 0.2, Birth by Sleep, A Fragmentary Passage, which is just another normal and comprehensible title. Remember when Polyphony used to do these prologue versions for their Gran Turismo games? A sort of pre-release large enough demo to get you hyped up for the main release? But this is kind of like that in a way. A short taste of a brand new, gorgeous, mind you, engine, and you just sort of get to run around for a bit. And, well, yeah, you guessed it, you can't really skip this one either, as without it you'd be left wondering why Aqua ended up where she did and how, and why Kairi suddenly matters now, except she doesn't.
Alright, picture this. You grew up playing on the PlayStation 2. Then one day in your local GameStop, you stumble on a new game. A brand new title not only featuring really cool Japanese art on the title, but also literal Disney characters. You beg your mom to buy it for you, and she does, nice as she is. Then you spend the next months playing this game religiously, every week, every night. Then, 3 years later, you read a gaming magazine and see that its sequel is coming out. You scrunch up the few dollars you have saved and rush off to the GameStop once again to buy it. It feels amazing to be back among these friends. It feels like coming home. Now, anytime anyone mentions Kingdom Hearts or Square Enix, you can't help but to smile. These games were your childhood. And now, 14 years later, when arguably one of the biggest video games of all time is finally coming out, you are the exact person that Square Enix does not want playing Kingdom Hearts 3.
It all comes back to that thing that Kingdom Hearts does. You might think you're prepared having played through 1 and 2, considering this is 3, but you're not even close. If I were to go on a limb, I'd say that Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 are some of the least important games from a story standpoint.
And for all you Kingdom heads out there saying there's a comprehensive directory within the game that helps you answer any of the questions you have and retell some of the story from the other games, you are correct. Some being a key word. But let's be real. I'm willing to bet that the amount of people actually willing to read through an entire encyclopedia to play their brand new Disney game is kinda low. You and I being the exceptions.
It looks great, managing to retain the trademark style while still looking modern and fresh, and in terms of gameplay, it is the most accessible entry in the series by a country mile. But none of that matters if you're gonna open up the game by telling us,
Olympus Coliseum, here we come!
Oh, going back to Hercules, okay. Two point 2.9?
What do you mean 2.9?
But it looks like a damn dream and you can ride a roller coaster, so it gets a thumbs up in my book. Plus, this is the end of the story. It is done. It wraps it all up. There is no way in hell that Square can even begin to consider releasing more Kingdom Hearts.
Remember when I said Kairi suddenly mattered now? Well, this DLC is kinda just her fault. Kairi is still missing, so Sora goes back in time to... Listen, we'll get to this soon, I promise you.
Alright, I think I've figured out the story now. I think I'm up to speed.
The hearts of Ansem, Xemnas, Vanitas, Riku Replica, and young Xehanort returned to where they came from and reassembled once more.
I have no clue what that means.
If I was a more cynical man, I'd say that this DLC was just a way for Square to repackage and reship the admittedly really cool fights at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. But cynical? Me? No, come on, stop it!
Do you remember that time when every successful video game series had to have a kart racing spin-off? Obviously Mario Kart, but Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, and Star Wars all had separate kart racing entries. Even Garfield has two, and one of them is pretty recent. This is kinda like that, but instead of Garfield, it's Sora, and instead of go-karts, it's a rhythm game. And instead of no story whatsoever, because why would you put story in such a clear and definite spin-off game? It's Kingdom Hearts. Gameplay-wise, it's just like Guitar Hero Light, with hundreds of tracks from all over Kingdom Hearts. But I just can't shake the slight feeling of melancholy, because even if this is literally the most on-rails experience so far, it is the final time I'm gonna see Sora, Riku, and Roxas. All these lovable faces that I've spent almost every waking moment with for the last few weeks. And as the credits crawl to an end, and those last notes ring out into the darkness, so also does the Kingdom Hearts franchise as a whole. But for me, well, my suffering has just begun.
Go on, you just keep running. But I'll always be there to bring you back.
Alright, I guess there's no reason to be coy about it, right? This is the part of the video where I try to break down the story. This is the part of the video for why the vast majority of people watching this are even here to begin with. Whether they're a complete novice to Kingdom Hearts wondering what the hell is going on here, or if they're a veteran loving the series with hundreds and thousands of hours clocked, wondering what the hell is going on here? Now, I'm aware. There are probably a billion other super talented content creators out there doing deep dive analysis. People who can outdo my work and understanding in an instant, no matter how hard I try. But I'm gonna try.
Okay, so you remember the notepad file that I showed you? That I kept while going through the story of Kingdom Hearts 1 to keep track of it all? Well, I sort of kept keeping notes throughout my whole journey. Yeah, show 'em. Now this is just the addendum to the mobile. You need to zoom out. You need to, yeah, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Yep, zoom out. Yep. Keep going. Just a few notes. Okay. Let's start at the beginning.
Sora, Riku, and Kairi, best friends, grew up on Destiny Islands. Desperately wanting to leave and explore the outer world, Sora stumbles into a cave on the islands when encountered by a hooded slugman telling him this world has been connected. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Not soon after, their islands are engulfed in dark. Riku acts weird and Sora receives his weapon, the Keyblade. The islands fade into dark and Sora ends up in Traverse Town, where he encounters Leon, Yuffie, and Aerith from Final Fantasy. Don't ask. It's better that way. The trio explains that the creatures attacking Sora and threatening the universe are known as Heartless, beings created out of darkness in one's heart, beings that were studied by a renowned professor known as Ansem. Remember this, because it gets complicated. Sora then, in order to rescue his friends in Riku and Kairi, ends up traveling from world to world, unlocking each world's keyhole, preventing Heartless from forcing said world to fade into darkness. Just as all hope seems lost, however, Riku shows up again, but no, he's bad, convinced that Sora has forgotten about him. He gains control over Sora's Keyblade and is generally just a bully for a while. After a brief alteration, Sora gets his blade back, however, and the Heartless's main goal is presented. Gather up the 7 beings of pure light, which will grant access to Kingdom Hearts.
He said it!
Just as it happens, turns out Kairi is one of said beings of light, but in a very normal and predictable manner, Kairi's heart is inside Sora. Riku, wanting now to murder Sora in order to open up Kingdom Hearts, reveals himself to be Ansem, or at least possessed by Ansem. Sora beats his ass, but still decides to free Kairi's heart, but this time in order to close the last keyhole. Trust me, it makes sense. Kinda. Kairi wakes up having her heart restored while Sora turns into a Heartless for a bit. Real Ansem does a bit of posturing before real Riku shows up and gives Kairi time to escape. When all hope seems lost yet again, Kairi recognizes Sora as a tiny baby Heartless boy and turns him back into a real human boy. After which they decide that it's finally business time and track down Ansem to the not at all forebodingly named End of the World. What follows are a bunch of very classic and very Japanese boss fights leading to the destruction of Ansem and seemingly to the saving of the universe. Sora, now finding himself in front of the door to darkness, out of which the Heartless have been spilling out, and with real Riku's help from the other side, they manage to close it, sealing the dark away with real Riku offering up the greatest sacrifice, being locked in the realm of darkness. That is Kingdom Hearts 1. And now it's card game time. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories picks up right after Sora and Riku close the door to darkness, with Sora now ending up in Castle Oblivion, a place so twisted that the doorman greets a literal child with the words,
"In this place to find is to lose, and to lose is to find."
Look, I'm 28 and I struggle to get what that means. I feel like Sora's reaction here is 100% justified.
I don't get it.
Under the assumption that Sora will be able to find Riku in the castle, he delves deeper, soon meeting the lovable chap Axel who wants to murder him. Sora starts remembering a girl from Destiny Islands, Naminé. After realizing that every floor of this damn castle seems to be inhabited by a person wearing a black cloak wanting to kill him, Sora is relieved when he finally runs into Riku, even if Riku is acting a little strange, and oh no, Riku also wants to kill him. Just can't catch a break. Soon after, Sora meets Vexen, who also wants to murder him, who leads him to a world created from another side of Sora's memory, Twilight Town. Remember this, it's complicated. Vexen, still wanting to murder Sora with all his heart, gets murked by Axel, who deems him a traitor to the organization. Sora then finally meets Naminé, who explains that she was never actually part of Sora's memories, having instead taken the place of Kairi, who Sora's now forgotten about. All of this is cut short, however, with bad, weird Riku interrupting again before being defeated by Naminé in order to protect Sora. This strange Riku being revealed to be a replica with fake memories created by Vexen. In a similar vein, Sora is being used by Naminé and the Black Cloaked organization to become a vessel for them. Naminé explains that she was forced to do it and feels immense regret over messing with Sora's memories. Sora's fine with it though. After defeating the big bad in Castle Oblivion and Axel revealing himself to be like kinda good, Naminé gives Sora a choice. You can either remember everything that happened in the castle, the organization, Naminé, what have you, or he can go back to his memories from before, where he remembers Kairi. He thinks about it for a good 0.5 seconds and then decides to forget the whole castle thing ever happened. And that is the first half of the card game. In Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories Reverse Rebirth, you follow Riku as he makes his way the opposite direction from Sora through the castle. All throughout Riku's journey, Ansem is trying to possess Riku once again, but Riku is able to resist. With the help of the power of darkness, Riku fights his way through several organization members before meeting Diz, a strange guy in mummy attire who will be voiced by more people than I can count. Diz helps Riku understand that the darkness that lingers within him is fine and okay, and who cares. So Riku comes to terms with it, and before long finds himself face to face with Ansem again. After defeating him yet one more time, Riku manages to escape the castle.
Now, Kingdom Hearts 2 is a lot like Metal Gear Solid 2, both in that it has a 2 in the title and that you're forced to play as a character you couldn't really care less about.
Meet Roxas, just your regular normal boy living in Twilight Town. It's the last week of summer vacation when suddenly people in black cloaks and suspicious white creatures appear. Roxas, being normal and not at all a weird magical child tied in with the greater narrative, is naturally surprised when his baseball bat can suddenly transform into a keyblade. Roxas keeps having dreams about a boy named Sora, and soon before long, Axel appears, telling him that he's part of an organization, a certain black-cloaked organization. Roxas, being normal and not special at all, does not remember a lick of it, which irritates Axel to no end. At the same time, it's revealed that Diz, the Brendan Fraser-looking ass from the card game, has been hard at work trying to keep the nobodies from interfering with Roxas. Nobodies being beings without a heart, beings not supposed to exist, which is explained to our non-nobody, normal, standard boy Roxas by Naminé. who's also here, I guess. Roxas, after being expositioned to by Naminé, decides that he needs to find Sora in order to fulfill his role to return to being part of him, which he seems strangely fine with. Before Roxas commits to once again being part of Sora, she also reveals that Roxas and Axel used to be best buds and that they were like real cute together. Now that the MGS2 portion of Kingdom Hearts 2 is done, we're back in the oversized shoes of our main boy Sora. Sora, who isn't allowed to wake up for more than a minute before being spoon-fed more critical info. Apparently, whenever a being transforms into a Heartless, a nobody of that being is constructed as well. A nobody being a creature without a heart, which is not a heartless, but a heartless.
It's just how it works.
It's also revealed that the organization, now name dropped as Organization 13, are all very powerful nobodies. Sora, not knowing exactly what to do with this information, is kinda just like,
I don't get it.
Around the same time, Kairi, who after Kingdom Hearts 1 returned to Destiny Island, starts remembering Sora, which is convenient because Axel shows up to capture and keep her at Organization 13's headquarters in order to anger Sora, but not before she manages to drop a message in a bottle out to sea, hoping it'll reach him.
Remember this. Please remember this.
Sora Deus Ex Machinas over Ansem's old MacBook and finds out that Ansem was actually kinda good, and the Ansem they fought in Kingdom Hearts 1 was actually bad Ansem, who wasn't really Ansem. And to top it all off, the version Sora fought in Kingdom Hearts 1 wasn't bad Ansem either, it was bad Ansem's Heartless, leading Sora to the conclusion that if bad Ansem had a Heartless, then bad Ansem also needs to have a nobody who happens to be the leader of Organization 13. Not a word of a lie. Said leader, revealed to be named Semnes, has been using Sora for the entire plot to release the captive hearts of the Heartless in order to once again recreate Kingdom Hearts. It is revealed around the same time that Semnes is the nobody of good Ansem's old apprentice, Xehanort, who at some point just decided to change name to Bad Ansem. It's simple, really. Sora then, through a tip he believes is from Riku, realizes that there has to exist another version of Twilight Town, one where Roxas, Sora's nobody by the way, resided. They deduce that this version is one created within the datascape, and when traveling through it, they meet up with Axel. Axel, who, showing remorse for his action working for the organization, sacrificed himself in order to save Sora from the nobodies. Sora then faces off against angsty Roxas within his own heart, making Roxas feel okay about not being real or whatever. Naminé, who is Kairi's nobody by the way, then decides that suddenly she can just teleport and rescue Kairi from Organization 13, while Sora makes his way up to their headquarters. The two meet and Riku joins them. Riku, who now looks like bad Ansem, Xehanort's Heartless, which he explains as to use the power of darkness, he had to become Ansem himself, which he needed in order to defeat Roxas for Diz, the mummy guy, to be able to place Roxas in the data version of Twilight Town to begin with, something he had to do in order for Sora's memories to be able to be fully recreated after Chain of Memories.
Diz is also revealed to be Ansem, and that Diz was just an acronym that stood for Darkness in Zero, which is just like really cool.
Sora, Riku, and not Kairi all together then managed to beat the rest of Organization 13's members, including their leader, Semnes, Xehanort's nobody. Sora and Riku then find themselves trapped in the realm of darkness, but not for long, as a certain message in a bottle washes up on the shore, opening a door to light back to Destiny Islands. That is Kingdom Hearts 2, and all is good in the world. This is the first time this recap that we're going back in time, as 358 Days Over 2 is a prequel to Kingdom Hearts 2. We once again set off as Roxas, who was created the minute Sora freed Kairi's heart from himself, all the way back in Kingdom Hearts 1. Roxas wakes up in real Twilight Town and is found and named by Semnes. Roxas is then and there also indoctrinated into Organization 13 as their 13th member, making their ranks complete. Roxas meets Axel and the two of them become fast friends, and they eat so much goddamn ice cream. Soon enough though, a 14th member is introduced into the organization, Xion, who Roxas is tasked with training, as most of the other members are sent to Castle Oblivion. Remember, this takes place during Chain of Memories, when Sora is busy murdering every single organization member in said castle. As soon as Sora makes the decision to revert to his old memories at the end of Chain of Memories, Roxas starts dreaming of him, mistaking his own memories for Sora's, deeply intertwining them. Xion soon after learns that she is not a normal nobody, but rather an imperfect replica of Sora created by Vexen, much like his replica of Riku, with her creation having been ordered by Semnes in the case that they couldn't use Sora or Roxas as their 13th member. Learning this, Xion decides that she needs to turn back into Sora for his memories to be able to be fully restored, making it possible for him to wake up. Semnes, however, is one step ahead and captures Xion, making her turn on Roxas to gain his power. Roxas defeats her as she shows remorse and fades away. Enraged by the happenings, Roxas charges after Xemnas, but it's stopped by Riku, who is working with Dis, Good Ansem, in order to capture Roxas and lock him in the data version of Twilight Time, so that Sora's memories can be reassembled and he can wake up.
This is where Kingdom Hearts 2 takes place, but we're going even further back.
Taking place 10 years before the events of Kingdom Hearts 1, Birth by Sleep follows Aqua, Terra, and Ventus, 3 Keyblade wielders being trained under Master Ericus.
Voiced by Mark Hamill, by the way.
Ericus has invited his old friend, Master Xehanort.
Yes, that's Xehanort.
To oversee Aqua's and Terra's final Beyblade exam. In the final fight, Xehanort just can't keep his grubby old man hands off of meddling and makes Terra fight with the use of darkness for a little bit. Ericus, being all holier than thou, fails him, naming Aqua as the sole new Rollerblade Master. All this fanfare happens as Xehanort, now voiced by Leonard Nimoy by the way, sneaks off and talks to some angry MCR fan about needing to destroy Ventus, who's this guy by the way.
Look, I know what you're about to say, but like it's not Roxas. Like, you gotta trust me on this one. It's not Roxas. I know, but like, it's not. Just hang with me for a second here, right?
Just as a stroke of luck, the worlds are, at this very second, invaded by a new threat, the Unversed, which are like Heartless, but in early access. The masked boy reveals his name to be Vanitas, and basically just does a lot of emo boy posturing before the 3 Keybladers can leave their home and battle the Unversed. Xehanort catches up with Terra and tells him that Vanitas is the darkness in Ventus's heart, which Terra is like, alright, what do you want me to do with that info? Xehanort then gets himself fake captured by some dude named Braig and uses the situation to force Terra to lean further into the darkness, which he does as he blasts Braig's A out with a dark RPG shot. Xehanort then sucks up to him as he's exposition to about how light and dark needs to be in balance or whatever. It's probably not important. Terra then ends up on Destiny Islands where he meets Riku, and because he really likes his hair, he grants Riku the ability to use a Keyblade or whatever when he's old enough. While Terra is busy playing with a literal toddler and Aqua is wherever Aqua is, Ventus finds himself in a place called the Keyblade Graveyard, the place where a massive war between thousands of Keyblade wielders took place eons ago. Here, Samofjord explains that Ventus has the power to create the Keyblade, which is why Ericus didn't want him to leave for other worlds.
Which, like, oh yeah, he didn't want Ventus to leave. I forgot about that. It's a lot, okay?
Terra then shows up and Zero Board is just like, Ventus is about to murder Ericus, so he races back to find out that Mark Hamill is already on their way to kill Ventus, as it's the only way to defeat the now clearly evil Xehanort. Terra leans into his dark powers to save Ventus, and Ericus meets his end. Ventus is whisked away to Destiny Islands, where he has a flashback to when Xehanort tried to create the Keyblade once before, but failed, leading to the fracture of Ventus's heart into pure light Ventus and pure dark Vanitas. In order for the Keyblade to be forged for real, both sides of Ventus's heart need to clash. Vanitas uses this little tidbit of information to his advantage, forcing Ventus to fight him at the Keyblade Graveyard, forging the Keyblade. This exact moment, Old Man Xehanort feels like it's time for a new skin suit, takes his Keyblade, stabs himself, and transfers his heart into Terra, creating Terra Xehanort, or whatever. During all of this, Aqua fights the now combined Ventus and Vanitas combo meal, while Ventus fights Vanitas like in their hearts, man. After the battle, Aqua gets off scot-free, Terra's whereabouts are unknown, and Ventus's heart basically just like peaced out. Because like, holy shit, that little thing has been through so much. Aqua then locks Ventus's lifeless body in their home world before transforming it to Castle Oblivion to keep him safe. She then once again encounters Terra Xehanort, they battle as you do, but they both fall into the world of darkness. In her last-ditch effort to save her old friend, she sends him back to the real world, dooming herself to be trapped in the dark for eternity. Not really, but it sounds more dramatic. Terra Xehanort is then found and awakened by Good Ansem and taken in as his apprentice. Braig is also there, all smiling and stuff. The guy who like kidnapped Xehanort, if you didn't remember. He's very important. You should definitely remember him, by the way. We then pan back to young-ass, toddler-ass Sora, who's told to open his heart, which he does just in time for Ventus's heart to enter and find a place to rest.
Remember earlier when I said this was one of the easier ones to follow? Yeah, well, it turns out I lied.
Kingdom Hearts Coded is
Oh my god, who cares? It's not even real. It all takes place in a computer. It's not real Riku, it's not real Sora, and fake Riku is like a book. Look, the only thing you need to know about Recoded is that the Book of Prophecies is apparently a thing, and Sora and Riku are going to become Keyblade Masters, which is also apparently now very important.
Triple D, as we like to call it in the business, opens on a new, chill, no worries note. The whole thing about destroying a person's heartless and their nobody is that the original person can now return to life. This is happening to every organization member, but also Xehanort himself. So basically, by even bothering to play through Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, you've doomed yourself for there to be a Kingdom Hearts 3. You've got no one but yourself to blame here. For this very reason, Sora and Riku are now tasked with becoming Keyblade Masters, and to do this, they must travel from world to world, rescuing them from their state of sleep, granting our two boys the power of waking.
Which isn't, like, really explained.
They do it, however, and when it all seems to be coming up Millhouse, Sora encounters someone who reveals himself to be young Xehanort, time-traveling to the present time. An ability granted to him by old Xehanort's Heartless, the slug-looking man from Kingdom Hearts 1, who in turn traveled back in time to allow young Sheldon to go forward. Sora, being stuck in this never-ending hellscape of what is even going on, learns that Organization 13 never wanted to become whole, as stated in Kingdom Hearts 2, but rather to use Kingdom Hearts to create vessels for Xehanort out of every member. Sora then has to battle Xemnas, Sigbar, whatever, and does the classic win in the fight, lose in the cutscene trick, and falls asleep. Drifting deeper into the dark, Ventus's heart, that is still inside Sora, shields him by putting him inside a literal kid's literal knight's Halloween costume or whatever. Xehanort, Bad Ansem's Heartless, then reveals to Riku that, like, psych, you've been inside Sora's dreams all along, protecting him, kinda. Which is, like, cool, I guess. Once having left Sora's dreams, Riku finds his friend's lifeless bodies sitting among the other organization members in their clubhouse, just in time for real old Xehanort to be reconstructed. Xehanort then reveals that his master plan was to create his 13 darknesses in order to battle with the 7 pure lights, which is exactly what you need, apparently, to create the Keyblade this time, which will summon Kingdom Hearts and a new great Keyblade war, yada yada yada. Axel shows up, being all 100% good now, and rescues Sora, as the gang make it out while Xehanort spouts more exposition at them. Riku, now having gained the power of waking, enters sleeping Sora's heart to wake him up, where he meets good Ansem, who tells him that he implanted data within Sora's heart. Which is good. Or something. Sora then wakes up, learns that he failed the exam because he slept in class. Axel and Kairi get their Keyblades, and the game is done.
Moving on to the damn mobile game. Listen, this game is massive. Where would I even start here? There are like 5 games in one here, and they're all on the fucking cell phone. Where do I even begin? Just look at my notes. How am I even supposed to parse this? Huh? Okay, fine. Fine, let's just go.
So, before anything else, there were 6 apprentices, apprenticing under the ever-elusive Master of Masters, who prepared them for a time when he might not be around anymore. This Master of Masters wrote a book, the Book of Prophecy, stating to the letter what would happen in the future, and on the very last page, declaring that in the end, darkness would rule over light. And also, before anything else, there were like 13 big bad darknesses. Like, we're talking unkillable, undefeatable darknesses. Beings that gave up their bodies just to be bad. The Master, before disappearing, gave each apprentice a specific task and commanded them all to create a union to fill with young Keyblade wielders, the goal of which was to compete against each other and find as much Lux, which was basically light, kinda, as possible in order to stave off the encroaching darkness. Lushu, the 6th apprentice, didn't receive this order, however, instead being granted the Master's Keyblade and a massive black suitcase, and no one knew what was in it. And it's like insanely important later, so I just thought I'd mention it.
The remaining apprentices started to squabble, however. Their unions got nastier and nastier as they started to strip the light from everything, each one fighting for themselves, this being a part of the Master's plan, however, because all of the negative emotions shared between the apprentices invited 7 of these 13 darknesses to nestle within their hearts, but without being able to take control because of their immense light, effectively trapping them within their own bodies. This squabble, in turn, however, led to a great battle between the unions, the Great Keyblade War. The same Keyblade War that Xehanort has such a hard-on for. Do you realize how stupid I look speaking about this in public?
Obviously, this was already stated in the book, so Apprentice Ava was tasked with gathering up the strongest Keybladers and send them off to another world so that their legacy might survive or something, I don't care. The new leaders chosen for these strongest Keybladers were, among others, Ephemer, who's... He's like really important later, so just hold on, alright?
And this is effectively where Kingdom Hearts Key ends. And the insanity begins.
So Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key, or Union Cross, or whatever, picks up like right after the player's character and the new Union leaders were transferred to the data version of the world they just left. Except, not really. One Union leader is missing, Strelitzia, whose place is taken by Ventus.
Yep. That Ventus.
If you really must know, Ventus murdered her. Like, I'm not joking, he gutted her. He was technically possessed by the dark, but like, still. His hands, etc. Ventus doesn't really take realizing this well, and the dark within him reveals itself again. Ventus, trying desperately to repay for his sins, lets the dark stay within his heart so that it may be defeated. So the others just smack the crap out of Ventus for a bit until he falls asleep, is put into a pod, and...
Oh yeah, there are these like pods that let you travel from between like the future and the past. Look, I don't know how they work. Sue me, I don't know, and like I don't care either. All I know is that Ventus ends up in the Keyblade graveyard, which I assume ties into the beginning of Birth by Sleep. Which is kinda neat.
So Ventus isn't the only one who traveled. A few other Union leaders also did, back and forth, and not all of this is hugely important, to be quite honest. I don't know. But Lucio is here, being all mystical and stuff. And it might be alluding to him like choosing a Union leader as an apprentice and like passing his heart on. I don't know, and at this point, I don't care. All that really needs to be conveyed from this insanely over-the-top mobile game is that as the leaders and the player character are confronted by the remaining darknesses, the player character ends up trapping themselves in to hinder the darknesses from escaping, effectively forcing almost all of the Keybladers sent to this world to fall asleep. This, in turn, leads to a choice for the player, to stay awake or to fall asleep and be reborn.
And as you choose to be reborn and your body dissolves and your heart flies away, you are finally done with Kingdom Hearts Key. Or Unchained Key. Or Union Cross. Or like, whatever you want to call it, it's over. It's all over. Like the mobile game, it's done.
And just as you glance over to the screen to close it forever, you see that you're reborn as...
Xehanort? You're reborn as... You motherfucker, I'm back in!
So, this one is gonna be quick, but it is oh so important. Us, now Xehanort, wake up on Destiny Islands and is quickly visited by the Slugman, which, as established previously, is just old Xehanort as just a heart, because he had to time travel, and them's the rules. Slugman opens a portal to Scala ad Kylum, which is this, like, massive Greek city where Seni now learns to become a Keybladist. This is also where he meets Ericus. Like Ericus from Birth by Sleep. You don't remember Ericus? This leads us straight into...
Well, not that one. I meant Kingdom Hearts 3. Fine. Let's just go do the Gran Turismo one first.
We return to the gang as they start to assemble their 7 Guardians of Light in order to meet Xehanort's 13 Mega Darknesses. So before anything else, there were like 13 big bad darknesses. Like, we're talking unkillable.
Oh my god, I just put that together!
Problem is, one of said Guardians, Aqua, is trapped in the Realm of Darkness, and she's been there for like 10 years at this point. It's like a tech demo, so I don't know how much story you're expecting here. But one of the biggest little nuggets of info is that apparently when Riku helped Sora close the door to darkness at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, Aqua was there, saving Riku in the process, and that's like it. Kinda.
What? What, you expect her to get out? No, she's still hard trapped in like the Realm of Darkness or whatever. We just got the chance to run around the new engine for a bit. Which was nice.
Before rolling the credits, Riku stages a plan to save Aqua. Kairi starts learning the Keyblade arts with Lee. Yeah, that's his name now. It's Axel, though. And Sora still needs to learn the power of waking, because he failed his exam, remember? And that, finally, leads us into... Sora has an Instagram account now.
That is the most important aspect of Kingdom Hearts 3, and I still can't really believe that it's actually canon.
Turns out the organization is back, but this time rebranded as the real Organization 13, which will just age just about as well as New Super Mario Bros., with their motif still being to create vessels for Xehanort and Antivirus so that he, and he alone, can be all 13 darknesses. Kinda. As previously mentioned, a few of the old members decided to stay good once their hearts were returned to them post post whatever game that was now again. But a good handful of them still like the idea of just being generally bad people and let Simoporgon invade their hearts fully. Riku spends like a good eternity trying to rescue Aqua, dropping keyblades all over the shop before finally caving in and asking Sora to help him. The two combine into just a way too big overcompensation and manage to take down the dark anti-Aqua, freeing Aqua and going home. But not before they return to Castle Oblivion, where Aqua hid Ventus, or at least Ventus's like dead body, which is kind of weird, but like Sora still needs the power of waking, however, in order to free the 3 hearts that are still stuck within his own heart. Those being the hearts of Ventus, Roxas, and Xion.
And if your first reaction to that is like, hold on, weren't Roxas and like maybe Xion like kind of like nobodies, as in like beings without a heart? Then I would just like to congratulate you for staying awake this long, but also simultaneously tell you to just shut the hell up, dude. Like, I don't know.
However, right on cue, as Vanitas, who is still alive, by the way, swoops down to once again be a bad boy, Sora Deus Ex Machinas the power of waking and just plops Ventus's heart back into his own body, resurrecting our long-lost little murderer. Somewhere around here, it's also figured out by Enzo, who's this guy, by the way. His name was Sexion when he was back in the organization. I didn't mention him because he was like not important back then. He's not really important now either. But he found out back at Good Ansem's PC that in order to resurrect Roxas and like maybe Xion, they like need a body because like Sora is still using his. So that's an issue that needs to be resolved. So when the master behind Replica Riku and Xion, Vexen, turns out to have been a double agent this whole time, they just have him make more. And there's clearly no ethical problem here because we just don't discuss them. Axel, now named Lee, but still named Axel, is finally done enough with training the noble arts of Beyblading, so he joins the ranks of the 7 Guardians of Light as well. Oh yeah, and Kairi, she's also here, I guess. Having assembled all 7, kinda, they head to the only place where every important battle in this series takes place, the Keyblade Graveyard, in order to do battle with Soroboro's 13 Darknesses, which will forge the Keyblade, which is exactly what Xehanort wants. So this plan is great and very well fought. A fight ensues and the gang meet Terra Xehanort. Proving way too strong, he just kinda kills everyone. And that's Kingdom Hearts 3. Just as the Book of Prophecies foretold, the darkness at the end would win over the light. Except just like Erika's cheated at chess back in their academy days, so can we apparently. And Sora still lives, being sent to the final world, which is just like a huge bathroom that someone let the tap run in for an eternity. Sora pieces himself back together and in turn also travels back in time like 3 minutes so that he can rescue the others as well. Terra's armor makes the comeback of the century and defeats Terra Xehanort. But a giant tornado of little heartless boys now threaten the gang. And just as, once again, all hope seems lost, Ephemer appears. See, I told you he was important. And with his brave Keyblade warriors named Jellyfun and S. Hotman, they defeat the strange weather phenomenon.
Remember like 2 hours ago when I talked about the admittedly like really cool fights at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3? Well, that part starts here.
Sora, Riku, and the gang then fight through the remaining darknesses, each one granting a new piece of the Keyblade for Uncle Simobor, which I still think wasn't really thought through properly. But it all goes well. Original Terra returns, as does Roxas, now in a replica body.
Don't think about it.
In a last-ditch effort, Sergon kills Kairi, making Sora angry, when the following is said, and I quote, "Master Xehanort transcends space and time. He is a portal." And everyone is just like, yeah, no, that makes full sense, yeah. So they push him out of the Keyblade Graveyard and into Scala ad Kylum, the city where he studied the Keyblade.
Don't think about it.
But here Xehanort can apparently grow even stronger and unite with all his other selves, apparently, allegedly, or whatever. The final fight of the series occurs, and just like that, it's over. Sora defeats Xehanort, who is like sad and stuff, before being forgiven for his literal war crimes by Ericus, who's like a force ghost or something. Tom Brown. The gang then close up Kingdom Hearts for good, and they eat ice cream. And scene. Except it's not. Kairi is still missing or dead or something, so Sora decides that, hey, I need to go after her, which leads us onto the DLC, Remind. But before that, we are treated to a lovely little post-credit treat. Luxu shows up at the graveyard, still carrying the box given to him all the way back by the Master of Masters. He then resummons the old Union leaders, like the original Union leaders, which apparently you can just do, even though they were like dead. Don't think about it. And it's revealed that Luxu is now Xigbar, who's like the nobody version of Braig back in Birth by Sleep. You remember, I said he was important, which is cool or something. Also, he's still alive, even though they killed. So yeah, that is Kingdom Hearts 3. Okay, so this is really just extracurricular stuff that your teacher, for some reason, has you doing after the school year ends. So let's just blast through this real quickly, eh? Sora goes back to the final world in order to find Kairi, where he finds out that in order to bring back Kairi, he's gonna lose his powers and be unable to return himself. He's fine with it, so Sora travels back in time to stop Xehanort from stealing Kairi in the first place. And it's revealed that this time travel Sora was the one helping resurrect Roxas among like a billion other things. However, time travel Sora fails to rescue Kairi in time, but in a genius move, uses the power of waking to follow Xehanort into the portal, leading him to Scala 8 Kylum before regular Sora enters. Now, all he needs to do is find Kairi before regular Sora shows up, and uh-oh, he failed. Regular Sora shows, dooming himself to remake the same mistake, except he doesn't. Time travel Sora uses the power of waking, or whatever, who cares, to travel into regular Sora's heart and then into Riku's and so on, until he's linked every single keyhole in the universe, which leads him to Kairi's heart. Then they go on to defeat Xehanort, just like in the base game, and it's happily ever after. Except it's not. Sora can't return, remember? So he dissolves in the final world and everyone is like really sad. A full year passes and then Riku decides that, hey, yeah, alright, maybe I should like go look for my best friend. And because in Dream Drop Distance, where he went back into Sora's dreams, he tries that again. Sora is then shown waking up in an actual real-life modern-day city and is like real confused about like what cars are or something. Also, the Master of Masters is here. Oh, and Yosora, who's... Look... If I told you Yosora is from an in-universe video game, the cover of which you've only seen once throughout your entire journey through this saga so far, I take it you wouldn't believe me, right? And that is Kingdom Hearts 3 in its entirety. One left. Just one more. There are two main revelations in Melody of Memories. Memory of Melody. Melody of Melody? I don't care. There are two main revelations in this game, which is good because precisely none of the gameplay matters here. First, we learn that Axel and Isa, Sykes, or whatever, tried to rescue Kairi when she, as a child, was taken by Terra Xehanort, or normal Xehanort. Not the old Xehanort and not the very young Xehanort from Dream Drop Distance. This Xehanort wanted to find Sora through Kairi's heart, and through probing her memories now that she's older, the gang finds out that allegedly there exists like another world or something, one that's not like light or dark, which is the whole main thing about Kingdom Hearts. But this new world is different, it's not light or it's in between or whatever. It's also stated that it's a fictional world, which is good that they specified because Kingdom Hearts has always been so realistic and it's really hard to keep track of like what's real and what's not because it's so realistic. Riku, in the meantime, finds out that in order to find Sora, you need 3 keys. Riku's dreams, Kairi's memories, and she who came from the other side. The other side being alluded to being this fictional world. And not to mix too many things in, apparently the old Keyblade masters, like the masters from like Key or whatever, also went here. This fictional city is given a name. Boston. Actually, no, what is it? Quadratum. I'm sure it's close to Boston. And that is Kingdom Hearts. Now and forever. Yosora is shown meeting Sora, saying he was tasked with saving him, and then beats him up to the nth degree, and then drops the very same line that Sora said at the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1, making it all come full circle.
Alright. That's cool, but like, isn't this supposed to be a Disney game?
Huh?
Isn't this... I thought this was a Disney game? Like Donald Duck or whatever? Tim? Hello?
I didn't even talk about Disney!
That is it, truly. Kingdom Hearts is finished, and the answer to that ever-elusive question in the back of my mind is finally answered. I can say that I didn't enjoy a single second of these games, bar my little excursion with Birth by Sleep. They're just too far away from what I enjoy when it comes to game design. But that doesn't matter in the slightest, because Kingdom Hearts is now one of my favorite series of all time. Call it Stockholm Syndrome if you want. I mean, it's fair. I've spent hundreds of hours in here. But I think there's something deeper. Something lingering just below the waterline. That depth being that it's Kingdom Hearts. There is nothing else like it. Nothing can even claim to come close, because no one would actually be insane enough to create something as convoluted as this, let alone someone who has access to millions and millions in funding. And therein lies the magic. It has nothing to do with the mouse or the castle, but everything to do with its creators. I cannot, in my honest opinion, ever begin to suggest that it is well written. But you can't possibly disagree with the fact that it is thoroughly written. In these 14 games, there are more important plot points than in modern human history. And it's all disguised behind the thin veneer of a Disney game. Kingdom Hearts is so clearly the game series that Nomura and his team wanted to make, that it should be looked at in awe. No board member or higher-up suit ever got as close as writing a line of dialogue in here, because then it wouldn't have ended up like this. And that is special. That's Kingdom Hearts. There's a horse. There's a little horse there. Right there is a little horse. Whee!